Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we learned that in the Holy Temple, the was the Ark, the Aron, and in the Aron there were the tablets that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. That's really the essence of Judaism, is the Torah. And together with these tablets was the revelation of God that was on Mount Sinai. That's why it was in the Holy of Holies. And surprisingly, on this Aron, this Ark, was a covering, and on the covering was beaten out two statues that were attached. These were two faces of two angels, this is two children, and they had wings, and they were facing one another. So the question is asked, what is a thing like this doing in the Holy of Holies together with the Torah, and even more, it's on top of the Torah? So the answer is it's talking about the Jewish people and their relationship with God, and God and their relationship with the Jewish people. And that's what it says that King Solomon was hinting at at the beginning of the last chapter of the Song of Songs. If only you were again a brother to me. He was hinting at the time when the temple would be destroyed, and that the relationship between God and the Jewish people wouldn't be so revealed as it was in the time of the temple. Before we start, let's give charity. Every day we should try to give charity. Very important to give to the poor. Here's the problems of the world. We live off of God's charity totally, and so we should be like Him. That's really what we're talking about here, is being like God, and then that arouses God. Okay, so there's an interrelationship between God and the Jewish people, and that's what the whole book of the Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim, is written about, this interrelationship. And one of them is that we are like brothers to God. We're on an equal footing. Brothers are like equal footing one another. and so as a result, because we're so to speak, we're equal with God, so we can arouse God and God arouses us. And this is what's called small faces and big faces. So when we show God love, God shows us love. We turn our backs on God, so to speak, so God turns his back on us, so to speak. His attention. That's also called God's Shekhinah. God's, how do you say, in English they translate indwelling. I guess that's better than anything else. The Shekhinah is God's presence, how it reveals itself in the world. Basically, everything you see in the world is God's Shekhinah. God is enlivening everything. God is creating everything. The Jewish people, especially, that's a whole different level of God's Shekhinah. They have the potential to reveal God in the world. In the Holy Temple was even revealed more God's Shekhinah. Shekhinah means like your next door neighbor is a Shekhin, right? Is it to dwelling? So God dwells in the world. Okay. So it says that the two angels, these two angels, that they were facing each other. This is God's relationship with the Jewish people, and the Jewish people relationship with God. This is the level of godliness, how it comes into the world. This is the level of godliness that comes into the world. Now we have to repeat again that this world is very, very important to God. Very important to God. Infinitely more important than we can possibly imagine. Here is going to be the raising of the dead. Here's going to be the third temple. Here's going to be the gathering of the Jews to the land of Israel. That's the whole story of the Bible, is this world. That's why in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, is not mentioned heaven or hell, because those things exist, but it's not important. It's not important. What's important is what we do here, and what we do here is important to God, and God reacts to it. That's the whole thing of the temple. That's what we're mourning, that the temple is not here, because we can't see this interrelationship between us and God. Okay, so it says that these two keruvim, these two the statues that were pounded out from the covering of the ark. So it says that what about the covering itself? It says the covering itself of the ark. That's where these two angels come from. So that's another aspect of God which is above this whole interrelationship thing. This is above the whole relationship. This is, if you want to call it, God's essential love for the Jewish people. This is like the rules. that God set up that he's going to react to what the Jewish people did. He cares about what the Jewish people say. So the interaction, that's these two faces, that when we do something, God reacts, and then God inspires us. And that's the whole story of the Song of Songs. But the reason why God does set up the world this way, the inside of it, that's like the covering of the ark, that these two things are pounded out from. That's where they come from. That's what's called Soviv column. That's what he explains. That's what we got to the end over here. Okay, you can see if it is written. Right, so now there's no holy temple, so this is not in a revealed way. And that's what King Solomon is saying. Now, interestingly enough, King Solomon, he was way before the destruction of the first temple. He built the first temple. He was like, 400 years before the first temple. The first temple stood 410 years, and King Solomon built it. So King Solomon, when exactly did he pass? I don't know how long. I have to look and see. Let's say he lived 30 years when the first temple was in existence. So he died almost 400 years before the first temple was destroyed, but he knew it was going to be destroyed. It says the Maimonides when he brings the laws of the temple, that King Solomon knew it was going to be destroyed, and therefore he built this special room in these twisting hidden chambers underneath the holy temple, somewhere down deep, to put the ark with the tablets in it. And the ark with the tablets in it is down there. So what you read about in the movies and things like that is not so, that the ark is hidden somewhere or it's in Rome or something. That's not so. The ark, the Aron with the tablets in it, with the luchos, it's hidden down underneath the temple. And the reason, very simply, is that the temple without the tablets is not a temple. It's not a temple. It's missing the main ingredient. So it can't be missing. So it's there, but it was just hidden down low. Okay. So it says, but nevertheless, it still is not, when the temple was destroyed, so all of the service was destroyed, and after all, the ark is not in its proper place. Okay, Hine, behold, Kasiv, it is written, it says these angels, the statues that were on the ark, their wings were spread above. They were above. The East of the Zohar, it says in the Zohar chapter and Achrei, and also in Parshas Vayechi, it says Tos Zimnun Biyoma, 3 times in the day they lift up their wings. Inon there are Migramehu Solkin Gadfeu, and from them themselves, or from their bodies go up their wings. This is Aramaic. The Zohar is written in Aramaic. Perish Ramaz. Ramaz is Rav Moshe Zechut. He wrote an explanation on the Zohar. Sham, Dahainu, Bishat Gimel Tefillot, at the time of the 3 prayers of the Jewish people. Nowadays, right? When did the Jewish people start praying? That was only basically the prayers were set up in the first temple, the second temple, the beginning of the second temple by the men of the Great Assembly. But they really started to be instituted strongly after the destruction of the second temple. Nowadays, the prayers are in the place of the sacrifices. So it says the 3 prayers that the Jewish people pray every day. Call 8 every time of the 3 prayers that the Jewish people pray. Haim Olim, that they elevate, their wings go up from Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya. Those are the created worlds, the spiritual worlds and the physical world, above into Atzilut. Atzilut is like pure godliness. Solkin Gadfeo, that's what it means, that their wings go up. Of these angels, Shahu, this is Arut Ahava, the arousal of love and fear of the Jewish people. Sha'ava v'yira, that their love and fear, this is called wings. Uparcha la'ila, and they fly up like a bird. The law is that a bird, if he doesn't have his wings, it's still kosher. A bird without wings technically is still a kosher bird. If the wings were like cut off cleanly, if there was a point on the bone where it's broken up, then there's a worry, maybe it pierced the lungs. But generally speaking, the wings is so the same thing. If a Jew does Torah and commandments without any emotions, without any love and fear, it's okay, it's kosher, but that's not a complete bird. That's not complete Judaism in any way. There has to be love and fear. In order for that to be true, genuine Judaism, it has to be love and fear involved. Love and fear means something that's genuine, it's intimate. Genuine, intimate. With anything that goes that way, a person with his family, right? Family, he doesn't show any emotions to his children, to his wife, to his parents, not so much, but he takes care of them. He takes care of them. He says what he's supposed to do. He's got a book, and in the book it says you should say good morning, you should say good evening, how are you? But he doesn't really care. So okay, he's a father and he's providing for everything, but there's lacking humanness in the relationship. The same thing is with us with God. It's complete. A complete human being. His soul is also involved in what he does, and there's a lot, especially a family. There's a lot to involve the person's soul, the love, right? You don't want anything bad to happen to your family, to your care. That's fear, etc. So the same thing is with us, with God, with God. When we realize how real God is, and that not just as how real God is, how unreal we are in relation to God, that God is creating us. So when we realize how infinitely real and infinitely good God is, so that should arouse in us love and also fear that we don't want to be far from the Creator. We don't want to be separate from. So it says, when do we realize this? When we stop thinking about the world and we start thinking about God, because naturally people don't think about God unless there's a person who's a tzaddik. That's all he's thinking, that's all he's aware of. He feels God. But we don't feel God, we feel ourselves. So in the time of prayer, you stop thinking about yourself a little bit and you start thinking about God. That's why we see the Psalms of King David, because King David said these Psalms from his feeling of God. So when we say these, we start to feel something like when King David said, or when we say the other prayers, it's like the king of the men of the great assembly, they felt. So it says these wings, this is the love and fear that elevate the Jewish people above. As then, Nikram Odamagado. Then it's called big man. The Api Rababi, it's called the big faces. Okay, so when the Jews are are not in a way of big awareness of God, so then what they inspire in God is not a big revelation. So then it's called small faces. But when it's man, it is really elevates himself and sits and thinks, really, where am I coming from? What's real reality? Then he arouses his love and fear of God. Then that arouses a big love and fear of God. And then it's called big faces. Because then it goes up to Atzilut. That's true godliness. Then God and his vessels and his bodies are one. And therefore, tefillah, prayer, the word prayer, tefillah, is chibur. The word prayer also means joining. Like naftalti, I have joined. So ideally, what prayer is not just that we're asking God for things, which that's also prayer. It says that before you do anything in the world, you're supposed to pray to God for it. But that's what God gives us, and we're supposed to try to, recognize the fact that everything comes from God. And when we do that, that opens up our vessel and inspires God to give us. But that's only, the bare legal aspect of prayer. The essence of what prayer is emotional, not what we receive, but what we give. We give ourselves over to God. We realize that we're everything we have, everything we are, our life, our eyes, our being, the whole world just belongs to God. We're really nothing. That feeling that everything is really nothing, that's like the world, that's called the dimension of Atzilut. Atzilut means you feel that there's absolutely nothing except for God. This whole world is just an amazing, incredible miracle. Every single detail in it. That's what's called joining yourself to God. What does it mean, joining yourself to God? Realizing that we are joined. That's all we are. In a Mishnah, it says in the Mishnah, Tofel Klicheres. It says a person, if a clay vessel is broken and you put it back together, it's called tofel. It's called putting, like tefillah. Tofel Klicheres, you join, that you join together, Let's make this smaller a little bit. You put the pieces back together in their where they're supposed to be. That's the world of Atzilut. So again, this world, God wants this world. This world is very important to God. We should not ignore the world. We should not ignore the world, but we should ignore our false attachment to the world. We become attached to the world in an ego, from our point of view, in an egotistical way. And that's false. On the other hand, God created us that way. And that's called avodah, that's called work. And work is prayer. Main time of work is prayer. In other words, the big problem is our heart. Where is our heart? What gets us excited? What, how do you say, arouses our emotions, right? If your next door neighbor's car gets stolen, you don't care. If it's your car, that's terrible. If you get a check and your name is not on it, so what do you care? If a check has your name is on it, $1 million check, you want this, then you get excited. What is it that it makes you all of a sudden you get it? Because it's me, it's mine. That's the whole idea of serving God. That's also called da'at. That's the idea of serving God. That instead of connecting ourselves to me, I connect to myself to the Creator. Okay, this is not a natural thing to do. It's work. That's what prayer is. The Creator is really the world of Atzilut. In the world of Atzilut, God wants there to be a world. He wants there to be a world. This dimension of Atzilut is how God begins to come into the world. That's also called Chachma, we talked about before. God wants to, but God cares about the world. He wants the world, but He wants the world from His point of view, not from our point of view. Maybe we can even say it's something like, people misuse their bodies, for instance. People misuse their bodies. So let's say a person eats sugar. Why does he eat sugar? Sugar is very not healthy, but it tastes good. It tastes good. It really tastes good. And once you taste it, you really want more. And it really gives you some sort of a kick, that you can't get from anything else. You put the five, how do you say? There's the joke. What is it that you ask the person, the guest, how much sugar you want in your coffee? He said, well, in other people's houses, I take 10 teaspoons of sugar. And in my house, I take 1 teaspoon of sugar, but I really like 5. In my house, I take 1 because I'm stingy. But in other people's houses, the more the better. Right? The more the better I take. Right? Well, but really what I like is 5. I don't want to be too unhealthy. People use their bodies in unhealthy ways. Same thing, we use the world in unhealthy ways. We use the world, we're interested in money, we're interested in this, we're interested. Okay, money is not bad. All these other things are also not bad. Sweetness is also not bad, but sugar is not good. Sugar is not a good thing. But you can have other types of the sugarness, the sweetness from fruits, there's this. It doesn't have to be too sweet. The same thing was with money. Take an example, right? Money is great. Money is wonderful, but you don't have to go crazy about it. That's called misusing the world. Using the world properly is the way it is in Atzilut, the way that God wants us to. That's where the Torah comes from, to use the world properly, right? You can be married, you can have children, you can have money, you can have a nice house with this, but it has to be only on God's terms. That's what it means. Serving God has to be attachment and clinging of your soul to its source. And therefore, therefore it says that's the whole idea of the Holy Temple. It sets everything right. Suddenly you realize it's God's world, it's not our world. You go to the Holy Temple, and that's what the whole idea of the 2 keruvim were, these 2 statues. The statues, it says that they have wings, and the wings raise up above to Atzilut, because the purpose of man is to elevate himself. Similarly, Paneim Ishal Chalchiv, it says also that they're facing one another. Sheshamim Yuchadim, that in the world of Atzilut, it says that that's why they're in the Holy of Holies. That's like the world of Atzilus. Now, the world of Atzilus is just a dimension of reality. It's just a dimension of reality. It's, so to speak, true reality. That in when Atzilut, then that's looking at the world from God's point of view, then the Jewish people and God are united one with the other, one to his brother, face to face, like it was in Mount Sinai. In Mount Sinai, it says, face to face, God spoke with us. It's a sentence in the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy. And therefore, Nikra, it's called Achim. The Jewish people are called with God, they're called brothers. We and God are brothers. That's also what it says in Psalms, Laman Achai V'Rayai, for the sake of my brother, my friend, my brothers, my friends. Adabra na shalom, I will speak peace. Shalom, peace, means joining two opposites. The two opposites. One of the faces is God, the other one is the Jewish people. They're totally opposites. God is the creator, we're the creation. There's no bigger opposites than that. But there's shalom, there's peace between them that we join together, so to speak, to be brothers. We say, we're called brothers. Look what it says, the Ramaz. Again, this Rab Moshe Zechut. In Parshas it says, the Jewish people are called brothers with God. What does it mean? Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people, the Knesset Yisrael means the source of the Jewish souls. Jewish people, Makablis, they receive, Mochin, they receive their awareness from the Chachma Bina, from the upper, from God's wisdom and God's understanding above. She'ein bechinas Adam HaGodol. That's what's called the big man, the man that's sitting on the throne, etc. Shaloya deis labshus, without being bebechinas kruv v'zir anpin. It says the Jewish people receive straight revelation of God, their oneness with God. Therefore, it says that in the future, the Jewish people will be tremendously wise people, etc. That's what it says, the Maimonides says. So here it seems to be saying that one of the faces is with the big face, that's God's face, and the other one is the small face, that's our face. And when we look at God with all of our being, then God shines to us with a big face, and others that we realize truth, we feel what godliness is. That was in the time of the Holy Temple. But after the Holy Temple was destroyed, the Nignasa Keruvim and the ark with the angels, with the faces on top of it, the Keruvim, were hidden, right? Nignazu was hidden, like I said, King Solomon hid them down deep down, and then there went away the shining of the face, which is called the small faces of God, that he shined down into us in a small way, and etc. Because what do we say? That in order for God to come down to us, he has to make himself small. But it's okay, so now now we don't have either one of these. We don't have God's big face. There's the shining directly of Atzilut. We don't have God's small face, is how God reacts to us, even in a small way, right? When we call to him in a small way. So, but neither of those is found now. Neither one of those. Therefore, Zoti, because this is the request of the Jewish people, who will make you like a brother to me. Like it was in the time of the Holy Temple. That they were brothers. We and God were brothers. When we shine to God a small face, God shined to us a small face. When we really were, how do you say, unified with God, then God showed us a big face. But nowadays, there's no Holy Temple. When they were face to face, also it says in the Holy Temple that their faces were one to the other. We ask God, should it only be the same way again? How should it be the same way again? Well, I mean, God should rebuild the temple, right? That's not what King Solomon was talking about. King Solomon was saying, of course, God has to rebuild the temple. But we're saying now in the time of exile, we also want you to be a brother to us. How can God be a brother to us now? There's no Holy Temple. There's no ark with the angels, the faces on the statues, one to the other. There is, but like it's hidden. It's not operating. In the time of the Second Temple, it was hidden, but it was still operative. But nowadays, there's no Holy Temple. What are we supposed to do? So it says, nevertheless, King Solomon saw this, not only the destruction of the first temple, destruction even of the second temple. King Solomon was saying, may it only be that we say, God, we want you to be a brother to us. How? How? Al Yadei, by means of Esek Torah, by means of learning the Torah. Maim Razal, that's what the rabbis say. Was Shecharav Beis Hamikdash, when the holy temple was destroyed, Ein LaKodesh Baruch Hu Elo Dalet Amo Shel Halacha, that God only has the area of where Torah is learned. Because after all, what was the ark? Was the Torah. V'zeu yonek shadei imi. That's what it means. I will nurture from the breasts of my mother. That's the end of that sentence, right? Look and see. It's the first sentence in the 8th chapter of Song of Songs. If you would only be like a brother to me, nursing from the breasts of my mother. What is this breasts of the mother? What is the breast? What's it talking about over here? Brothers nurse from the breasts of the mother. The brothers, where do they get their sustenance from? From the breast of their mother until they're weaned. This is what is the breast of our mother here? This is Torah Shebal Peh. This is what's called the oral Torah, the Torah, the explanation of the Torah. Shehu b'chinas giloi chachmasa. This is the revelation of God's will and God's wisdom, really. Namely, if so, a person that he understands a law or anything in the Torah, so he's grasping the wisdom of God, that God is the knower and God is the knowledge. And therefore, they're called brothers. Why? Because both of us, we receive from the same source. The Kamosha Zeranpin, just like Zeranpin receives mochin from Ava ve'ima, so there's different aspects of God. There's God, how he comes into the world, and then there's God, there's us. So that's God, how he comes into the world. That's, so to speak, what's God's emotions. And then there's us, we're like God's kingship, Malchut. And when we learn the Torah, so that activates the whole entire process, that both us, the Jewish people down here, and God's emotions, that's what's called God's Shekhinah, also the same thing. So they both receive from the same source, Chachma and Bina. So when a Jew puts the ideas of Torah in his mind, even the most simple ideas, so this causes a big, huge chain reaction in all the spiritual worlds, because the Torah is above all the spiritual worlds. The Torah is the blueprint, is the source of the worlds. That's what the Torah is called, chalav. The Torah is called milk. Like it says, Lacho shivru yayin v'chalav. Come and let us eat together wine and milk. Kamosha al derech mashal avala, just like a child, belated though when he's born, who betachli takatnos is very small, but by means of that he nurses milk from his mother, mitgadli mevorov, then he grows. And v'gam nishalmo, and also his intellect also grows. He becomes more mature intellectually. And therefore, matchil ledaber, therefore he can start to speak and he can start to walk, and just from nursing. Children nurse up, and there's some children they can nurse until they're 2 years old. That's 2 years old. In that time, a child can also a child starts to talk, he starts to walk. It comes from, therefore, there's Jewish souls, the neshamos, therefore the souls, before they come into this world, they were, first of all, ibur. They were pregnant. They were in like a fetal state, in what's called malchut of ema. That's the source of all the souls. That's what it means. God is alive, the one that I stood before him. I lived before him. If you read this in a Shema, when the soul comes down, when it was pure life, it comes down from what's called Atzilut and the Bria Yitzir and Asiya. This is the Jewish souls. And it comes into a soul. This is called giving birth. That's what God says. I today gave birth to you. And the Torah that he learns in this world, this is called milk. So a Jewish child, when he's born, so it's, so to speak, he comes from the upper womb of the Atzilut. The soul comes from Atzilut. And when it's in the world, so the Torah that it learns, that makes the soul grow. And therefore, Rizal, the rabbi, say, Ashrei mishabol lekan v'talmuda biyodo, happy is whoever gets to heaven, and he has Torah learning in his hands. What does it mean in his hands? That he's learned anything in Torah. By means of this, the soul becomes greater, it becomes more mature, it becomes more healthy. Than it was before it came down into the world. So in other words, we can't underestimate the power of what the Torah is. What the Torah is. That's why the Holy of Holies, what was in the Holy of Holies? The Torah. There was also the written Torah was also there. It says there was also a scroll of Torah. One says, a person that says it was on the side of the ark, inside of the ark. So the Torah then is the source. That's a big thing in Israel now, right? That it was from the very beginning that the government was, how do you say, declared, was, how do you say, proudly not religious, anti-religious. Being religious is not practical. That was their idea of the founding fathers of the country. And so they were very against boys sitting and learning Torah and not going into the army. Learning Torah and sitting, it was just, simple cowardice. Sitting. They had no appreciation of what learning the Torah is and how that helps the world, not just helps the person who's learning it, gets him into heaven. It helps the world. It's the basis, backbone, and life force of the Jewish people. The Torah. Without the Torah, there's no Jewish people. There is no Jewish people. So we have to not just according to the law. You have to look into to see what to do and what to say and that's how to act. Of course, that's a very essential part of the Torah, is telling us what to do. It gives us the definition and boundaries of what a Jew is. But here the Rebbe is saying something even deeper. Just learning the Torah, even if it doesn't come to any practical, you're learning laws that are not practical, right? You're learning laws about the red cow. You're learning laws about the temple services. You're learning laws about damages you don't have these damages. My ox gores somebody else's ox. I don't have an ox. What are we learning laws? Because this is God's will, even though it seems to be very mundane things, and it seems to be things that are not even practical nowadays. They don't even exist. The Ben Sor of Amora, it says the wayward son, he has to eat exactly this amount of meat and this amount of wine. It has to be like sort of boiled and not really boiled, etc. It's an impossible situation. But when you learn the Torah, this is God's wisdom. And when you learn God's wisdom, you attach to God. You attach not only yourself, but you attach the whole world to God, like it was in the time of the Holy Temple. And that makes the Jewish people, the souls, more mature. That's what this says. That's what we're saying. God, that's what King Solomon is saying. He's prophesizing, projecting what's going to be after the second temple is destroyed. And the Jewish people don't have this revealed connection to God like two brothers. So he says they will have it by means of what? Learning Torah. When a Jew sits and learns Torah, that also brings him to the level of being on an equal footing with God. We're brothers. They're together, so to speak. They're nurturing from the same source. The Torah gives energy, so to speak, to God and to the Jewish people. Okay, but this is a big problem. What does it mean that God also gets energy? What does it mean? To understand. How is it possible by God that he is like a brother and he nurtures, he suckles from the breasts, namely the learning of the Torah of the Jewish people? Good, we can understand how that works with us, but what does it mean that we provide, we nurture God? What does that mean? We provide... But that's what King Solomon is saying. He's saying that you should be like a brother to me, that we should nurse together with from the breasts of our mother, from the Torah. How can it possibly be? But the answer is like it says, Ro Yisrael. It says that it says Ro Yisrael. The Jewish people, they become a shepherd. Like it says, Achote Rayati, Parnasati. God says, you are my sister, you are my shepherd, that you provide. Yisrael Mafarnasim Lavim Shabashamayim. The Jewish people, they feed their Father in heaven. They give nurture to God. Kamosha Lechem, just like bread joins to unite the soul with the body. Because the idea of nurturing above is to draw down revealed godliness into what's called the 10 sfirot of Atzilut. That's what's called wings. Let's go up to the period. Okay. Even the highest levels of God, there's no comparison at all. The levels, because that's a level. It's no comparison to Ein Sof, to the essence of God. So we're asking that the essence of God should be drawn and brought into the revelation of God by means of learning the Torah below. So if so, we have like 3 levels of godliness. One is this world that seems to be totally separate from God. And then we have the godliness, which is connected to this world. That's what we call God's Shekhinah, God's presence, God's emotions. And then we have the essence of God. And then the essence of God is connected to Torah. And really, there's levels of the essence of God also. It says the Jews are higher than the Torah. But nevertheless, when we learn the Torah, that activates the essence of God to come down into both the revelation of God, the Shekhinah, and also into the physical world. Also into the physical world. Okay, we can't take this, of course, too logically, anthropomorphically, right? That is really, but the fact is, it's happening, right? What we're reading about, that's real reality. What happens in this world, the picture that we're giving, that there's the essence of God in this, that's just a picture. That's just sort of trying to explain what's really happening. But the fact is, God put the Torah. Now, the reason is because God made this whole thing this way, and He's making it constantly. That's what it says. This is my God. We are waiting for Him. But the word kivinu means to make God into like pipelines. The drawing down godliness into God's kindness and mercy and etc. Okay, we're going. Okay, so it says la'ati lavo in the future. This is going to be revealed. It's all going to be revealed. Therefore, it says bayom ahu. It says, and that day behold. All right, we're going to do this tomorrow. We're going to go back to this. I'm sorry we started late today. Let's see, how far does this go? Yeah, we started a little bit late today. We'll go to this today. So let's just summarize a little bit. What did we learn? What did we learn? Today we learned that when Jews learn the Torah, that they fulfill what King Solomon was saying in the Song of Songs, that we make God into a brother. Because the Torah comes from God's essence. And when we learn the Torah, then this draws the essence of God into the revealed aspects of God, and even into this physical world. And that makes us and the revealed aspects of God, what's called God's Shekhinah, it makes it equal. That's called Kodesh Baruch Hu and Shekhinah. They both become equal. Okay, now all this we're talking about over here, it's like we're talking about, building a whatever is a house or something like that. What are we talking about? We're talking about all these things, revealing God in this aspect and that aspect, and we're brothers. We don't see anything. You see godliness being revealed. So the Rebbe says, okay, the fact is that we don't really even know what that means if God is revealed. We don't know what it means. And when God is too much revealed, we go crazy. It's just too much. Because we think that we are real reality and that we take that for granted. That's real reality. I mean, to the degree that people don't even trust God, let's say in money, with money, right? A person that's a thief, you tell him, listen, don't steal, and God will take care of you. You can't fathom that this is true. You can't fathom God's going to take care of me. How is it possibly going to be? So even simplest things, it's hard for us to rely on God. Here we're talking about godliness revealed in the world. And it's not that it will be, it's happening right now. When Jews learn the Torah, this happens. It says, but we just don't see it. It says, in the future, it will be revealed. In the future, this all will be revealed. The world will be filled. In the future, this will be revealed. All of these things. Therefore, it says, on that day, hine, behold, we will see all these things that we're talking about will be revealed. We'll realize that this is true. It's almost like a person that's blind and it's explained to him, listen, you make this operation, you're going to be able to see, and then you're going to see colors. You're going to be able to look at a beautiful painting of, the Monet or of Renoir or something like that, with the colors, with he doesn't even know what you're talking about, but he starts to believe maybe it's true, maybe it's really true, could be true, and the fact is it is true. So we're talking about revealing godliness that happens now. This, of course, is faith, but to a certain degree, we can feel what's going on, as we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Dvar Malchut.